Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. We have a special treat for you today. I'm joined by Chris Lord-Alge. Appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you so much,
very
Mitch.
much.
Glad to be here.
You're here to do a Waves seminar for us this evening.
Yes, I am.
And I appreciate you taking the time to stop by and do a Sweetwater Minute with us as well.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Now, you've worked with artists. I actually have notes here because there are far too many artists for me to remember. But some of the standouts are people like Rolling Stones, Bruce Springsteen, Green Day, James Brown, Slipknot, Tina Turner, Faith Hill, Madonna. I mean, the list is really incredible. But what's really amazing about that list is the diversity among the artists and the different sounds that each of those artists have. Now, your specialty is mixing.
Absolutely.
And how do you approach mixing all those different artists without making them all sound the same?
Well, I think, Mitch, the most important thing is that the song dictates the mix. And the diversity of artists is because I love music so much that I wanted to work with all types of music.
Mm-hmm.
But it really comes down to the song. The song's what dictates the mix, and that's the style of music. I mean, some of the early things I did were Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, I was an assistant on, up to another band you mentioned, Slipknot or Green Day, which is some heavy rock.
Right.
And then you throw in Faith Hill and Tim McGraw in the middle. There's like three different sides of a pyramid right there. And then James Brown, I Feel Good. I mean, Living in America was, in the 80s we did that. But it was all kind of the song and the style of music that really dictated it.
Right. Now, when you start out, do you listen to the rough mix, or do you go in and want to have a blank slate to kind of work from, or how do you approach building the mix initially?
I'll tell you, I really like having a blank. I love starting from scratch with no impression at all. The band says, "Oh, we want you to hear this stuff before you mix it." I'm like, "No, don't even tell me the song title. Tell my assistant the song title." The only time I really listen to the rough mix is just in case they're married to it, used to it, just to make sure that I'm going down the same road they want.
Right.
But to me, the thing that makes the magic is when you throw it up, don't even know what the song is called, don't even know the title. I look up and say, "What's it called again?" And I just get the feel for the song instantly. That's the inspiration for me for mixing.
Right. Now, we should take a step back. You started, you'd mentioned in the 80s as an assistant.
You were in the 70s.
In the 70s in New York City, correct?
Absolutely.
And you were with Unique Studios there when you did some of your first projects?
The first project I was assisting on was Van McCoy in the 70s for Hugo and Luigi at H&L Studios, and my mentor was Steve Jerome as an engineer. And I was brought there as a young teenager, 13 years old, and started assisting right there on the spot and making sessions. And it was, they were songwriters and producers, and it was the stylistics, it was the soft tones, it was Van McCoy. It was still in the disco era. A few years later, Sugar Hill took over the studio, and I started working for Sugar Hill Records on the early rap sessions. It started out with Rapper's Delight, The Message, some of the great classic rap records. I didn't even work on a rock record until I was in my mid-20s. I mean, so it all started out with basically hip-hop and funk and making records like old school style.
Wow. Wow.
So,
were you tracking in those days and doing the project from beginning to end, or had you always had a focus more on the mixing side of things?
No, see, that's the thing is back then there was no mixer. There was, you come in, you start to track in the morning, you do vocals at night. The rough mix you did at like 10 o'clock at night could have been the final. You did a song a day. It was a song a day with the producer, and I was the engineer. And the mixing became, I had so much fun making the rough mix at the end of the night. That's what I wanted to do.
Right. Right.
That was the important part.
Right, that's great. Now, you're really known for having a really big sound to your mixes, and I understand that you achieve a lot of that through compression. Can you talk a little bit about how you approach that with the different sounds and tracks?
Well, I think one of the smart choices, that the simple things that started it out was first by listening to another mix engineer called Bob Clearmountain, kind of set the path for mixing to me. And when I heard his records, I thought, wow, I want to make my records as big as his. Now, I think that the thing that makes the mixes big is by monitoring really quietly and trying to park all that information in a really small area. So what I do is I take compression and take something that's taking up 3 parking spots and make it just take up the 1 parking spot it should, being really efficient with the sound space you have and making it be as large as it can without all this wasted space around it. I mean, that's putting it in like a real general term. But I listen so low, if it sounds big on this size speaker, it sounds huge on a big speaker. So it's about kind of reverse engineering a little bit and using compression more as a tailoring, as an effect, as a tool that way.
Right. So is it kind of like assembling a jigsaw where the bass has to sit here and the vocal has to sit here, and that space around it is really what makes it sound larger?
I kind of look at it as a puzzle where you slide things into a groove. And once you get a certain balance, that means the pieces have fit.
Right.
And the compression really becomes more of a texture. It's almost like a paint color more than, you know, an all-purpose thing.
Right.
It's really used there for flavor. You're like, you know what, this flavor of compression is a sound. It's not so much, I need 5 dB of compression. I just need that sound.
I see.
So that's really my thing, is more about sound rather than I need to have X amount of compression.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the other things you're known for is working very quickly. Do you have a specific workflow that you follow that allows you to achieve that while still getting all these sounds that you want?
I think that, you know, I think the simplest thing about it being quick is I enjoy it so much and I have so much fun doing it. It's kind of like a race car driver. Once you're in the left lane, it's like, I don't want anybody to pass me.
Right.
I get a feel for the song and I just want more and more. And before I know it, I'm like, I think I've completed it. And then I think, here it is, it's ready.
Right.
And I look at my watch and like no time went by. It's like, I want to go on the ride again.
Right.
And that's what it's for me.
Right. That's what keeps coming back every day.
That's what, you know what, I can't wait for the next mix, always. Every day, I just love music that much.
Right, right. Now, you talk about monitoring at low levels. Can you tell us a little bit about the monitoring system you use and how you approach that?
I really break it up between 3 different monitoring systems. Between like a consumer boombox. I really think about the consumer, not so much the pro guy. But I have the really nice pro speakers. I have the original NS10s, which were the speaker to mix on from the 70s. And I have the boombox, which is like your iMac or your computer speaker to monitor through. So I kind of judge all 3. The only thing I don't bother with is headphones. You know, I could never get around the headphone thing. I know headphones were designed differently for me. But I stick with just 3 different kinds of monitoring, and when bands come in, they tend to focus on looking at the boombox because it's got the 2-inch speaker and it tells the complete, absolute truth.
Right.
So sometimes I'm nervous playing it on the small box because if it ain't great there, you know, then, you know, I have a problem. But
right.
it always wins down there, and the band's like, wow, I got nothing. I'm
Right.
great. They take it out to the car. I mean, that's kind of the generation we're at. And then when we put it on the $20,000 state-of-the-art speakers, it really defines the imaging that you created because you did it at such a low level that you didn't abuse it. The real clarity comes out, and then it's exciting.
Right, right. So we should talk about, I know you have a tremendous array of outboard hardware, but you're actually here today to speak with, to give a seminar on your new line of Waves plugins. Can you tell us about those plugins, how they came about, and what they do?
Exactly. Well, you know, funny enough, I thought all my plugins were all installed by screwdriver only. And for years and years, like all my plugins are, you know, use a power screwdriver. Right. Waves came around and we started a relationship because they were, you know, making their version of the SSL EQ, which I have SSL consoles and I've been in front of them for 20 years. I mean, or longer, well, however long. And I know that sound, so they trusted me to say, hey, this is great, make some presets. And I realized that they can emulate the vintage equipment better than any other company. Their technology at recreation, look, it's recreating the gear. It's not copying, it's recreating it into a plugin. Was so good that we talked about creating something I wanted to make for the user. So my signature plugins that I made are made for the first-time user, to the next generation of mixer, the next generation of engineer, to have something that is simple and has everything you want in one plugin.
Right.
And I'm excited because it's more of a tool to have fun with music than a tool to scratch your head and be scientific about.
Right.
And I think that's the important thing I'm trying to bring out is a real working man's plugin, real simple, real fun. What I did is I mimicked I took what I would do to the drums exactly the way I would do it normally on my complete analog system and put it into a plugin. So when you start, your start point is my start point, where I would be ready to go. So if you just pop them on everything, yeah, automatically it starts to glue together. It starts, the puzzle starts to fit. So I really tried to design something that right off the bat, when you put it in, it changes it right away.
Right.
It's not like it starts at 0 and you have to add to it. No, it already has a special sauce. It's already got the spice ready for you.
Right.
So try to put some excitement right in there.
Right. Well, they're incredible tools.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we put a lot of hard work into it, and you know, it's for the user.
Absolutely. Chris, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure, Mitch.
It's been a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to the seminar tonight.
Oh, I look forward to it too. And here live at Sweetwater, Chris Lord-Alge here.
I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining us for the Sweetwater Minute.